Hello and welcome. Today I'm joined by Andrew Mosko, who recently took on the role leading digital and D2C for Throne Sport Coffee, the best, after serving as head of D2C ecom and demand generation at Primo Brands, where he oversaw customer acquisition and retention for the D2C and SMB home delivery, with a portfolio that includes Poland Spring, Mountain Valley, Pure Life, and over a dozen other water brands across D2C, B2B, and Amazon. He spent 15 plus years building and turning around digital businesses at places like Stanley Black Decker, Hearst, Helen of Troy, and their brands, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, and others. He's operated across the full spectrum from launching D2C businesses from scratch at Stanley Black Decker, tough to do, to running subscription models, managing Amazon 1P and 3P. That can be herding cats sometimes. He also advises early stage companies on growth and digital strategy. Now he's applying the enterprise experience to high growth, ready to drink coffee brand. Check it out. It's the best. When we talk about balancing D2C, marketplace, and B2B channels, well, managing customer acquisition economics, Andrew has done it across a totally disparate group of product categories and business models. Andrew, welcome.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. What a great recap of my experience and triggering some great memories there. Awesome to be here.
Yes. So look, I'm going to crack this guy open because
Let's
it
do
knows
it.
me, knows I'm a coffee guy. This is awesome. Before we get going, tell us about Throne Sport Coffee. It's delicious.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Throw Sport Coffee. We are ready to drink coffee brand. We sit in a unique position where we are not just a traditional ready to drink coffee in a can. What we are, our product has vitamins in it. Our product is used by pro athletes for pre and post workouts, hydration, and just to keep you going. As we like to say as the brand, it's get going, keep going. And that's exactly what our product is. When
Yes.
our product was envisioned by our founder, Michael Fedeli, it was how do we make a great coffee that not only tastes good, but also has the ingredients of all natural ingredients that is safe and good to put in your body, specifically from a perspective of someone that cares about what they're ingesting and what they're putting into their body and not just caffeine. And I think that's what we are. Again, we are unique because we aren't just a coffee that's in the can, right? We are a coffee that's in the can that provides added value and added benefits to what you're drinking.
Yes, yes. Well, for me, look, I drink coffee like it's water, and you came from water. You recently moved from Primo Brands to leading digital there. You're transitioning from big enterprise organization to a growth brand. It requires a totally different set of playbooks. I mean, and if you could talk about what initially attracted you to Throne and the sports nutrition category, how'd you get here?
Yeah, I think, when we talk about what made this role exciting and what made me really decide whether or not to stay enterprise and go into a high growth startup. When we all work in enterprise, we understand that there are significant complexities there. Every decision takes a long time. Every penny invested needs X pennies returned. And I think what attracted me here was the speed and ownership, right? In our brand here at Throne Sport, coffee again is a category where brand, community, and performance all intersect, and that's really exciting, right? While
Brand,
water was
community, and
exciting,
performance. So you're sitting, you
yeah,
guys position yourselves right at the center of that. That's interesting.
absolutely, and you'll see that in our marketing as well. And I think what is exciting is that the DTC approach that we have is slightly different, right? In enterprise, I remember I was always optimizing systems that are already existent, right? Systems that are in place. My job was to take those systems, drive them, scale them, and any kind of risk was always needed with a true business plan behind it, or why we're deviating from what we've always done and why we need to do X, Y, Z. At a growth brand, we're building this, right? We're building this from scratch. We're building the muscle to drive this machine. We're testing faster. We're taking a lot more risk. And the biggest challenge with this, or the actual biggest risk is in this, is that we're doing this in front of the public. We're doing this in front of the customers. So anything that we are testing, anything that we're going to find that works or doesn't work, customer's going to see that. But that's good, because that's how we're truly going to identify what's working from a digital acquisition perspective for this brand and what doesn't. And I think the biggest adjustment from my standpoint was really unlearning, right? What I did in the
I'm curious about
past.
this, by the way, because this is not so simple.
No, it's not. And it's unlearning that instinct, right? The instinct to wait for perfect data, the instinct to wait for perfect alignment, the instinct to wait for that perfect green light to yes, let's go, to we may have little or no data. We may have budget and we may have a channel we've never spent a penny on. Let's just do it. Let's take what limited data we are seeing and try to find some hypothesis in there to scale it, to scale that demand, scale that drive. And then on the flip side, what really I'm able to really bring here from an enterprise experience is all of the discipline I've learned over the years. That could be from managing the P&L. That can be from understanding the unit economics, which is very important here, right? When you're a small startup, you don't have a wallet that's unlimited. What does our planning look like? Our merchandising plan, our demand planning across all our marketplace, across D2C, across our delivery apps, and being able to take that experience and build that here is what really helps and what is helping our success and my success here.
You hit a point that I adore. Like, I am data nerd. I've been steeped in this for as long as you have. But the truth is, like, if you and your organization, I know you do, you know your category,
Mhm.
you know these platforms, you know these channels, and you ultimately know the consumer. Able to do things and make decisions. They won't all be right, but you're making decisions. You're making mistakes that you're going to learn from, etc. But you're doing that on a very nascent and or limited data set because you know your channel and you know end to end the whole thing. Do you think, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but do you think that's really like a secret sauce for, how you guys have scaled, pretty quickly from zero to today?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a secret sauce. I think what that is if a brand truly, in any upcoming, any brand that's scaling, any growth brand, if they truly understand their customer and they truly understand what the customer wants and what the customer needs, we can call that a secret sauce, right? If you want. But I think that is the information, that is the knowledge we have that we're able to go out and find the customer and meet the customer where they are, right? We're not in a position where we are just throwing out this large net that most enterprise companies do in their funnel. Large net, catch as much as you can, push them down funnel. We can't. We know exactly where our customer is, and that can be down to literally, we know potential customers are at this location because they have 50,000 runners this weekend, or we know
Sure.
where a customer is from a segment
Excuse
perspective,
me.
right? And
Yep.
I think being able to identify that and really start to target your media, your acquisition strategy, your content strategy against that is what that secret sauce is. I think it all starts with knowing your customer, knowing the brand, and knowing what that customer needs, wants, and where they are, and meeting them in that intersection.
I love it. Honestly, yeah, a lot of big enterprise organizations, I think, could take a page or two. Like, again, it's a different business. I mean, you're PE, you're a public company. You need to do things a little bit differently. But, I think what you guys are doing and being so entrepreneurial and launching this thing from zero, which I think is the coolest thing in the world, in a super competitive category. Like, you're not entering like a totally new category. You're entering something that's already hot, and you're getting headway and you're doing well, and you're really, really getting traction. I mean, to me, I just hats off to you guys that really, again, you get your consumer, your channel, and this and that. Anyhow, you at Primo owned D2C, Amazon, P, 3P, emerging marketplaces, B2B, everything. I've done that personally as well. Not so simple.
Mhm.
Most organizations, or some organizations, really tend to silo these things. When you think of, because when I go to an organization, one of the first questions I ask, what does the organization look like today? What gaps are they? What capability gaps are they? Et cetera, et cetera. When you took that on a Primo, how do you think of structuring teams and strategy when they all report into the same function? There can be cannibalization. There can be a lot of friendly and sometimes unfriendly competition between those sorts of channels. Like, how do you think of that as an organizational perspective?
Yeah, so I look at it as total business impact, right? What is it that combined these verticals are driving for the organization? What is it that these verticals are doing together to align to drive that success? D2C, marketplace, SMB, B2B. Yeah, when they all sit together, it's not about harmony, right? It's about how are they effectively driving their own channel to drive impact, to drive revenue, to drive acquisition, to drive customers. I think what we do, we meaning you, me, enterprise, I think we overthink and over obsess about channels. Yes, channels has its place and that's where customers are. However, customers don't know where they are or what they're doing or what channel they may be in. We know where they are, right? And I think the structure that has worked best, and I think the teams that I've built internally, is that each team understands what our overall shared strategy is. Each team is sharing data from each channel. So your D2C team understands what B2B is doing. Your B2B team understands what your CRM team or your marketplace is doing. They understand what your success are. They understand where your hurdles are, and they know where you're missing. And I think that's where we start to build teams that align and work together in very different verticals that have one outcome. Channel specific execution, channel specific content, but it all sounds the same when you remove yourself from those verticals as a customer. And yeah, each channel is going to have its own economics, its own performance, its own success rate, and resources internally within these teams should obviously follow, right? I think the goal in leading all those segmented or not segmented teams in one vertical is that it is all about incrementality. It's all about how they're contributing to the total success, to the total revenue target or the total acquisition target, and not how are they each combined driving total revenue, if that makes sense. It's dissecting that as each and operating as one machine, right? Within each vertical, there's going to be points of tension. It's going to happen, right? And I think that's
And look,
healthy
some of that's
because
good, by
now,
the way. Like you want some of that to an
absolutely,
extent. Like you want some nice friendly tension and competition and this and that. I mean, but it can go
absolutely,
off the rails sometimes too.
it could, but I think that the tension is healthy, especially if the tension is that everybody's striving and driving for the same outcome. Whether you may think I'm on the B2B team, I'm on the D2C team or marketplace team, and tension can be as simple as, are we chasing the same customers in certain channels? Are we bidding against each other? Are we driving my paid media up because of what you're doing? And I think that's fine because that really helps unify us better to understand what everyone is doing. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to the data that we're all looking at in each vertical and knowing that the data we're seeing is not an afterthought. It is an actual go forward strategy piece that we need in place. You know, customers aren't shopping in channels. We only shop for customers in it as enterprise companies. And I think that's something we need to be aware of.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much bifurcation in some of these big organizations with, when you're starting to debate channel strategy and this and that. And channel strategy is critical. Merchandising strategy is critical. But you can't, like you're saying, can't lose the forest for the trees because she's not shopping, in channels. And, you and I both have, success advertising and going to market in digital and driving brick and mortar sales. And like, ultimately, look, throwing sport, right? Like you guys are going to obviously digitally advertising. You're in lots and lots of points of distribution too. I mean,
Mhm.
the idea that the customer is going to see an ad wherever you're putting it digitally, that if she doesn't buy it online, it's not a success. No, quite the contrary. You become relevant to her. You become an awareness because you're in an awareness sort of mode right now, but you've also become very, very relevant to her. She goes out, wherever you are, Walmart, 7-Eleven, what have you. That's a win. Tough to track sometimes, but like to your point, look at the entire thing overall. Like, look, analytics for something like that, it's tough stuff. It's doable, but it's tough stuff. But you're a new company. You don't have the luxury, of having this cruise ship full of analysts, data analysts, and data scientists. You don't really have that sometimes. And this is where, to me, it just comes down to my hats off to you guys, because you've gotten in all these retail points of distribution and you're clearly driving business there. People aren't just seeing this on the shelf and having no clue what it is and buying it and putting it in their body. Like, that's not happening. Like, that's some amount of education that you all did digitally that bears fruit in a totally different channel.
Yeah. I think it's interesting what you just said also, because we're a small org. You mentioned not being able to track if a purchase happens off a shelf in the store, and that's absolutely true. However, being a small org, and even though we have a significant amount of doors that we're in, if we start to see a spike in certain geographic locations, we can easily take a look at what we're doing from paid media and see, did we increase spend in that geographic location? Did we do anything of our targeting? Did we change our keywords? Or are we seeing
Local
an
celebrity
increased
picked it up
engagement?
and making noise there.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to your initial question on what helped me decide on a small startup organization like this versus enterprise, is that you can do those things very fast here. At an enterprise machine, if something happens, that could just be a little blurb on the radar. You may not think too much of it, and you may be missing opportunity. And I think, yes, we can never connect that unless we have a true data strategy in place, tracking offline, online, customer purchase, et cetera, through retailers and track back. But I think that is what makes this fun here as well, is that if we see some spikes there, I can go into that rabbit hole. I can identify what's happening and I can scale that. And I think D2C will always matter, and significantly, because you are controlling that customer. That's your relationship with that customer. Whereas at Amazon, Walmart, 1P, 3P, that's their customer buying your product. You have no control of that. You can't build LTV. You can't build a relationship. You're just hoping that they go back to marketplace and purchase another one of your products when needed.
So how do you think? And look, when we were kids, they used to put the dopey breakfast cereals, and it was all sugar and marshmallows or whatever, and they used to always have to put in the bottom part of a balanced breakfast. Nobody ate a balanced breakfast. Everybody ate the cereal. They didn't eat the toast or whatever. They ate the cereal. I think this is the same thing, right? Like, and this is sort of how I approach this. You've got, yes, Amazon, marketplaces, Walmart, what have you, but D2C is also a critical component. And to me, it's zero-party data, one-party data, and, feeding a lot into your own personal ecosystem, your own corporate ecosystem. How do you think, Amazon, if there is sort of a one-size-fits-all for this, fits into a broader omni strategy, especially when you all have huge brick and mortar presence at this point, through the Amazon ads ecosystem? Like, how do you think of pulling Amazon ads out into your retail to create a true sort of omni-channel conversation?
I think, again, it is part of the channel strategy to go after customer, right? In Amazon, we need to support that because you have to drive awareness of your product on platform. And while you are driving awareness of product, drive conversion, you're also building that somewhat awareness of who you are and what you are, so that when that customer has a second thought to purchase again, maybe they will come off a platform and come to you. However, as we all know, it is very difficult to convert a true Amazon shopper to a D2C site, because that is an Amazon shopper looking for their product. That Amazon shopper wants it by 3 p.m. today. If they are in a location that offers that fast shipping, Amazon customer wants it by the morning. An Amazon customer is not going to wait 2, 3, 4, 5 days for product, as our brand loyalists would through D2C channels. And I think it's Amazon, it just becomes a channel of strategy of awareness, customer acquisition, and overall driving total brand awareness. I think it always will fit in there if you're on those platforms. You must fit in there. You must drive the paid media for the awareness and for the overall brand success.
That's true. That's true. Um, Shifting gears a bit to subscription and recurring revenue models. Water delivery is inherently, your old business was inherently a subscription business, my opinion. I mean, I think that was basically a subscription business. We've also touched subscriptions at Hearst and elsewhere. Is there a, be all end all sort of subscription model that works, where it, it works for everybody? The brands get it right, the consumer gets it right. If they're happy with it, the brands are happy with it. And then conversely, is there just like some model that just doesn't work that people just get wrong right out of the gate? Like, what's the right way to think of that?
Yeah, I think to answer that question, put ourselves as the customer and what we subscribe in today, right? Subscriptions should not feel that they are being forced down our throat or down a customer's throat. In my opinion, subscriptions are wanted, subscriptions are earned, and subscriptions feel good to a customer. When a subscription product starts to feel as a over aggressive used car salesman, no offense to used car salesmen, then it's a complete turnoff, regardless if it's life-saving medicine, regardless if it's water, if it's coffee, if it's food, right? When we start to again make that subscription product feel part of that customer's lifestyle and make it fit in without it being forced, that's when it works. Specifically, water delivery works because it's reliable, right? It's needed. It's also from a perspective of in some locations it could feel safer, right, to drink bottled water than your tap water. And ultimately convenience. I don't need to carry a 5-gallon water from the supermarket into a shopping cart, into my car, up flights of stairs, into my kitchen and load it. Same thing with a case pack. And the same principle I think applies for whether it's coffee or whether it's food. Same exact thing. Or whether it's a digital subscription for comics as I did at Hearst, right? Being able to get that ease of information, the comfort and the path to getting that product as fast as possible without having to put effort to it is what works, right? If I can trade off cost for fast delivery of product, I think that works for customer. Customer will pay that. They will pay for the convenience. It's all about convenience, and it's all about making it feel that it's something the customer wants and needs.
Because they love your brand.
And on
If
the
I had to guess, there's probably some element of love there.
because they love the brand, right? Or they love the product within the brand, right? I think where it starts to get difficult for most subscription models is retention. And when a user subscribes to your product or becomes a subscriber, we should never look at it as a set it and forget it, as most subscription models are, right? They want
So that's the
less
pitfall. Like you
communication.
can't just, get these
That
people
is
in and just forget about them. Like that's the pitfall. You got to continue
it,
to show them love.
correct. And I think a lot of subscription models don't want to over engage with the customer because they don't want to remind the customer that they're paying for this. I don't think there is a fear of reminding a customer they're going to pay for this. They're going to see that billing email once a month. They're going to see that pre-bill email happen once a month as well. And they're going to see that bill show up on their credit card statement. So there's no way of making a customer forget that they're subscribing. I think what is going to make a customer, churn out is not communicating with them, as you said, right? We need to engage with them. You need to constantly engage with that customer. It also helps build your upsell through subscription. They may not know you have this product also. Have them add it to their cart. Have them add that to the next delivery. And I think from my perspective, that is where most brands get caught up in the subscription model and fail.
Is that a tough sell internally? So in other words, you're in a largely subscription-based organization. Is it a tough sell to say to the brand managers, to the marketing folks, or whoever's in charge of this stuff, hey, the person who's been buying my product on an auto delivery for the last 3 years, I want to go send them a note or remind them that we exist. Is that actually a tough sell sometimes in that sort of organization?
Yeah, I've had conversations across the various orgs that have been subscription products where the conversation has been led by finance and they don't want you to touch a customer. They don't want you to over communicate because they're watching this very closely. They're watching that line item very closely and they don't want you to over communicate for fear that they're going to churn out, right? Regardless of what
But the
my
product
pitch is,
shows up every
regardless of
month.
how the product shows up
It's
every month, the
interesting.
customer may have. And it's very interesting because if you have a churn rate, let's say of 6 months and a customer churns out after 6 months, I want to start talking to them at month 5. And I
Of
remember a
course.
conversation many years ago where
Yes.
finance told me, do not speak to any customers that are within the window of churning. I'm like, well, how am I going to prevent some of
Make
that if
them
I
not.
can't speak to them? Correct. And I think that all goes back as well to what is the overall revenue strategy for that organization? Is it short term, long term? If it's short term, it is don't touch those customers, don't speak to them. If it's long term, it's engage with them. It all depends on where we are, what they're reviewing, what they're reporting, what they're showing to investors, or whatever the case is. It is a difficult conversation sometimes.
It's what probably complicates it more, if I had to guess, is if your CAC is, if that payback period extends over months and years. In other words,
hmm
margins are slimmer, cost of goods are higher, et
hmm
cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How do you have to sell that into an organization that, like, hey, we want new business and it's a lifeblood, right? New products and new people, it's a lifeblood of any business, right? How do you have to go sell that into an organization when that payback period may be in month 7 or 8 or 9 if your churn on average is like 6 months? What's that conversation?
I think that conversation comes down to more than just what I am doing or what we're doing in the digital channel, right? We'd have to understand if customer payback is 8 months and churn is at 8 months or churn is at 7, we have an overall issue with the organization or with the product, right? There's something that either the customer is burning through product faster, if it's an actual consumable, whether customers are getting exhausted of what our content is, if it's a digital product. And then what is it we're doing outside from awareness of what we are, who we are to customers? And how is that affecting those that are actually subscribing? On the digital side, then we also have to take a look at, again, to our previous question, are we communicating to them? Are we keeping them engaged? Are
Yeah,
we
talk to
bringing them
people.
back?
You're like,
Are
this
we
is like an
are we
age-old thing.
creating correct? And even if they're existing customers, are we creating surprise and delight for them? Are we keeping them here so that, not to be cliche, but are we giving them a FOMO period, like a fear of missing out if they unsubscribe? What is it we're doing? The human psychology behind this isn't there. And I think that is what's causing a lot of that disconnect. And that's what causes a lot of the misalignment between the conversations, whether it's finance on the CAC, because CAC, like you said, is always going to go up. You show me somewhere that CAC keeps declining and margin increases, and I'm
Not in
there
the
all day,
category anyone
right?
cares about. I don't
No,
know. I mean,
exactly.
that's what it is.
That's the nature of this world. That's the nature of this business. And I think that is where, when we talk about organization, where offline, digital, brand marketing, website marketing, whatever other marketing is in the organization needs to be aligned to understand if X% of overall company revenue comes from a subscription product and we aren't even breaking even on that, then what is happening, right? How can we help fix this all around?
You're basically laddering back up to one of I think of our original things was, what is your channel strategy? Why do I want to be in, pick a channel, anything, D2C, Amazon, but it doesn't matter. Why am I here as a brand? What is the point? And like that shouldn't start with a number. That should be a reason. Like we're here because. And look, the because for certain channels might be, look, we're doing this for branding purposes. We're going to lose money in this channel. I mean, TikTok Shop. I mean, like that is not inherently, unless you're running this with an insanely high margin business, not necessarily profitable. But there's a lot of reasons
Yeah.
to be in that
Yeah.
channel. They don't start with a number. These are sort of, big, existential reasons why I want to be there. My customers there. This is where the conversation's happening. And it's not going to be a profitable thing necessarily. But to your point initially, when you guys are, a nascent organization, you got to look at the whole thing. Am I overall profitable? And if I've got something that's, it's basically some channel could be an expense. You're not going to put it on a P&L like that, but like that may be just sort of a cost of doing business to drive the other channels. And it's so critical. And by the way, it's probably a lot of fun to start these things out from scratch, which
hmm
you've done, by the way. You did it, Stanley Black Decker. You built
Yeah.
their first wholly owned D2C business. What was that for you? What was that experience like? Just if you would talk a bit about
Yeah. I think, the building D2C experiences or businesses are always fun, stressful, and exciting. at Stanley Black Decker, retail org, they've been retail for 100 and some years, right? Like you knew where to buy a product, whether it was Lowe's, Home Depot, whichever other 15,000 other retailers sold a product. During COVID, the organization decided to go direct to consumer. I think for one of the brands, Mac Tools, they were somewhat direct to consumer because of the product and the business via franchisees that sold off their trucks
Sure.
to mechanic stores or any technician shops, right? When you launch D2C within a very large enterprise organization, it's easy to get it off the ground because the funding is there. It's easier to get your marketing there because the funding is there. But it's not necessarily easier to get the customer, because that customer that needs a power drill or that customer that needs a air hammer is going to drive 10 minutes to a Home Depot, 15 back home, and within 30 minutes they've got that product because they're in the middle of a project and their tool broke. In that world, it's more difficult to actually scale the business after you get it off the ground because the customer's just not used to you selling directly. The customer's not going to go to your D2C site, place an order, wait 7 days, and then continue building that roof or continue building that wall in their home.
They got a hole in the
That's
roof.
where
and
you
it's
got a
gonna
hole in the
rain
roof.
later.
I'm going to go to Lowe's, correct,
That's
right?
it.
And get it done. However, building D2C businesses from scratch, where similar here to Throne Sport Coffee, is exciting because the brand is new. While the brand is in many doors, right, across the country, people may not be near a store that has the product, or a customer may not be fully aware that they can buy it in a Whole Foods or in any other convenience store. And they may be touched through some of our paid media, whether on social or search or any other channel that we're running. And it makes it exciting because not just from a conversion perspective, but we're getting engagement on our site. We're getting engagement on our channels, and we're building knowledge of our customer, right? Whereas an enterprise, they already know their customer. They know what the customer needs. On the growth side, it's super exciting to build a D2C because this is all stuff we're learning. It can be something new that we have identified from engagement on our site that I'm passing off to marketing or to sales that, hey, I'm seeing this with our
And
customers
new
in
product
San
development people,
Diego.
I'm sure you're giving that to them. Say,
New
hey,
product,
go make Tutti Frutti, whatever flavor, because the customer's searching for it. We should make it.
correct. And also because we don't have hundreds of SKUs, hundreds of products, I can easily see the velocity on sales on a specific product, and I can pass that off the product and say, hey, nobody wants this product. We're seeing all the sales coming from this product. It's over indexing. We're going to run out of product in 6 weeks. Let's just start shifting production into this. And I think that's the exciting part because you're literally learning every day. You're learning how to be resourceful in not just your spend, but you're resourceful in the kind of data you have, the kind of data you don't have, and really trying to build this, right? And I think that's what's exciting from building from scratch, from both enterprise and a growth brand.
Yeah, I mean, do you ever hit? I'm sure you hit, but like, talk a bit, if you would, about the timeline and investment. Inside a big legacy organization, standing up D2C to a level of profitability. I don't care what your gross margins are. They can be the highest gross margins in the world. When you have to do this DIY from scratch, talent, people, agencies, platforms, whatever, it's not a short burn. I mean, this is a longer burn. I mean, talk, if you would, maybe just a few pearls of wisdom on how to sort of manage expectations, which I'm sure they're sky high. Like, hey, I just gave you a check for, X dollars, and I want to see, if you're in with a private equity or public company, you want to see a return very, very quickly. And it's not necessarily going to happen from a financial perspective. There's other benefits you're going to get out of this, but in terms of profitability, it takes a bit.
Yeah, I think there's always, especially in enterprise organizations, look, the small growth brands, they understand this, right? They understand it takes time. from an enterprise level, there is a huge disconnect between what the timeline of profitability looks like and what executives expect, right? And because of that disconnect, I think that is what really drives some of the internal anxiety and fears, because a senior leadership may have gone to the board and said, hey, we're going to launch this D2C experience in February, and by July, we're going to be profitable. We're going to get a return on our initial investment on what we spent to stand this up, initial investment on what we spent to hire a team, initial investment on everything else
Keep going.
associated. And by July, we will be making, in July, every dollar made is $1 in
Creative.
profit.
Yeah.
Does not happen that way. Does not.
I've not seen it.
And I think we know this, and we know it can take anywhere from even 8 to 18 months to
Sure.
even hit some kind of profitability,
Sure.
depending on the size of this business. I think, and you probably experienced this as well, is that there are times where, as if you are in an active war zone, you're trying to take air cover from leadership every time they ask for something, and trying to build that patience, and regardless of what you put forth to them, is just not fast enough. But if you want to build something real, if you want to build a true direct consumer product, leadership needs to understand that it takes time. It's not I invested $2.5 million in Q1. I built this great D2C product. We are now investing $1 million each month in driving customers. You're not going to get that back in a quarter. I don't care what your product is, right? It's not
It's
happening.
all pay for play.
And I
This whole
think
world is now pay for play, right?
it's all pay for play. And if that in my opinion, going back to the differences between starting a D2C business and enterprise and growth, that's the part that is not fun in an enterprise business, enterprise org, is managing that expectation afterwards, even though you didn't sign up for that,
But
right?
it's all
It's
about
what you
that, right?
inherited.
It's just all about setting expectations with board, ELT, whoever it is. And if you can, where I've had luck, and it sounds like you've done the same, but sometimes it just goes on deaf ears. You set up a set of non-financial KPIs. Say, look, these 5 things are going to be true over this horizon, short to mid horizon. They need to be true for on the long horizon for this to be profitable. But these 5 non-financial things have to be in cadence before you hit profitability. I've done that a lot, and I know you have
Yeah.
too. And people will yes you in day 0 and day 1. Then they'll get to day 40 and not always, they don't always remember.
Yeah. And I think that what these organizations get so caught up on is that, Tim, from our perspective, if we launch this business and we see conversions start to come in, we start to see engagement, we start to see funnels starting to grow, and we know, let's say there's a 40-day window from first touch to conversion, and we know we have a sizable amount of customers in that funnel. We know that's going to convert. If we start to see even users starting to sign up for email addresses, give us their SMS number, anything, we start to see those KPIs rolling in. To us is exciting because we know we're starting to build something real. We're starting to see
4P and 1P.
momentum.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, all leadership cares about is what's behind that dollar sign. They don't care about time. They know they've given you 3 months.
Yeah.
What is 3 months going to do? 3 months isn't going to do anything when you talk about profitability, but 3 months is going to help build that ladder to profitability
Yes.
in a specified time, whether it's 18 months, 24 months, 12 months.
That's the
If
critical
you're
thing.
launching that's the critical thing. And I think being able to map out and actually show on paper your forecast, not just from revenue, your forecast from customer acquisition, your forecast from total inventory, your planning, whatever it is for this full business, and have full transparency on how you're operating from day one and matching that back to forecast. And I think if you are able to hit each and every one of your targets that you put in place in that forecast pre-launch, that builds the trust with senior leadership to say, you know what, maybe we give this more time. Maybe he's right. Maybe it doesn't take 3 months to build this business to profitability. Maybe it is going to take us 18 months. But if we see and they see that growth on that trajectory and they see us hitting every single target we laid out in place for success, then I think that helps.
But
But at
so
the end of
you've
the
made a
day, they
series of
care about what's behind
promises.
that dollar sign.
Sure. So what sounds like you've made a series of promises that you've said every one of these. Okay, this promise, I've kept it. This promise, I've kept it. Boom, 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 boom. And the other side of that is, the big sweet reward of the thing being profitable. But you basically made a series of promises that you delivered on. Is really, I think, what you're saying.
I think, yeah. And I think what makes the promise even more to validate it more is that that's all built off of data, right? So I've used every data point that we have, knowing our business, our potential customer, our spend, our conversion, our engagement, and I've mapped that out. And if we start to hit those targets, like you said, those promises become real and
Yes.
that trust is there. And then being as transparent as possible, whether we are either scaling on that or if we start to hit any hurdles and ensuring that I am ahead of that as much as possible. And if we're starting to hit hurdles, here's my plan to counter that. Here's my plan to fix this and get this back on track.
So speaking of, really getting stuff, really on track and going, you oversaw, am I right? Amazon Fresh and emerging marketplaces at Primo. Was that under your umbrella?
At Primo, it was market. It was, so I had Costco, BJ's, and that was through our acquisition of customer that we are targeting who were specifically Costco or BJ's customers. My team didn't own the shelves in the store. My team owned the acquisition of customer to our service who were members of the big box.
So look, you've had roles spanning through demand gen, through conversion, connecting upper funnel media to revenue is ultimately one of the most challenging things in what we do for a living. Totally possible, very, very doable, but you really, really have to have a well orchestrated sort of strategy. How do you think, of building out a full funnel strategy, not just for awareness, because everybody's aware, especially for legacy brands, but maybe for throwing sport, you're building out not only an awareness, but a relevancy from the customer who may or may not be aware of your product, but you're building a relevancy from that product to this retailer to this person. How do you think of that for building that from scratch, especially in a nascent sort of organization like you're in?
Yeah, funnel attribution, funnel strategy is always fun and interesting. And I think especially when you are in a growth brand, because you can either screw this up by investing completely wrong segments, wrong targets, or you can do this right by knowing, again, going back to our first question, right? Or our first conversation, we know who our customer is, right? We know what they want, how they want. So by knowing that, having that information, it helps me build our full funnel strategy in a smarter way, right? It helps me allocate the budget where I know that customer is. I'm not overspending my funnel awareness in search. I'm not overspending there, right? I'm spending enough based on what I know of our customer. I'm not overspending in paid social because I know our customer may not be on Facebook. They may not care about, what this product is doing in Meta. What I do know is that this customer, being a brand new product, is looking to try this product, right? Our funnel strategy on D2C is 12 pack case packs in single flavor. So if you want a latte, you'll get that flavor in 12. If you want a cold brew, you get that flavor in 12. And we also have a small variety pack. What I am doing here is our that is the largest chunk of our funnel, right? It's going after customers to buy 12 pack case packs. And I'm building out awareness in specifically designed or specifically identified segments in specific channels that is optimized to reach. It's not chasing ROAS, right? I'm not chasing ROAS right now. I am chasing reach and awareness to build my funnel awareness, to build them, to get them to move down into funnel. And I think it's very important for me to understand what my contribution to margin is and what my payback is. However, I am also understanding that as a growth brand, I need product in market, right? That may mean breaking even in some channels. That may mean beating my contribution to margin in other channels. And the only other channels I have to leverage single units outside of what we're doing on our site is through delivery apps on a digital experience. So whether it's Instacart that blankets most of the country, or GoPuff that is specific in certain cities, I'm using that as part of my funnel as well through awareness. So I'm investing in the delivery apps to drive awareness of a single purchase product so that these customers can buy that product, get it within an hour, get it within 30 minutes or whatever timing it is, have them try that product. They love that product. They're aware of it. And now they come back and they come sideways, right? To buy that case back.
And the ROAS on
But I
that
think,
initial purchase is probably atrocious, probably horrible.
yeah. So I'm not chasing ROAS.
No,
I'm
yeah, no,
chasing
I
product
love
in
this, by the
market.
way. This is
Yeah.
you're singing my song. We're
Abs-
love this. I
abs-
love this. Tough
and
sell in big
and
companies, by the way, sometimes. Very tough sell.
it is not even a consideration in enterprise organizations, right? You will not even have this conversation if you don't have X% return tied to that dollar. Here, while I'm not losing, I'm not making the ROAS or the profitability or the return that an enterprise would want to have, but I'm getting my product in market and I'm starting to get a share of customer that has never tried this product. And again, to our conversation 10 minutes ago, I'm building this growth path so that over a predefined period of time, we show profitability. And in a smaller org, they understand what we're doing, what I'm doing from a funnel. They understand the strategy in each channel. They understand the spend strategy from each channel. And they understand at the end of 12 months, I may be chasing volume and not total revenue. That volume will translate into a repeat customer that now is coming back. And in let's say in year 2, revenue is starting to climb now because I don't need to retarget them. I don't need to go after them again. We've already brought them correct.
You've already cacked.
And that
You've already
is a
hit your
conversation.
CAC for that person. You don't have to do it again.
Correct. I've hit the CAC. I may be spending a bit for retention, but it's negligible.
It's this relative to getting a whole new series of customers. Again, that's what so few people in this space really understand. And I'll tell you, you're brilliant for really mechanizing this in that organization, because a lot of people and this is why startups, my opinion, don't turn a profit. They go away because all they're doing is chasing new.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much cheaper. You've got a base. Sell them more stuff. Sell the ones you already have.
Yeah.
And this is not new to world stuff, but it's shocking to me how few people sometimes actually do this.
Yeah. And even here, we have a subscription model. So we have a lot of our first-time customers are subscribing. And the payback is not.
That's fascinating.
First-timers are subscribing.
Wow.
And I would like to say that, I would like to believe a lot of the reason for that is because they have tried our product in a store and they liked it. And they realize they can get the convenience and the price point, they can get it to their home, right? Get it delivered exactly when they want it. But it's really interesting to see as a new brand that we are getting first-time customers as subscribers. And it's exciting.
It's awesome, by the way. I mean, I can't push this. I'm a coffee guy. This stuff's fantastic. It's really, really good.
Awesome.
I love it.
It is really good stuff.
Look, as we round out our conversation, you serve as a board advisor to D2C and e-com startups. Your perspective bridges enterprise scale and startup agility, and I think we've really, really covered a lot of ground there. What's a couple pearls of wisdom that you could share with people just getting into this business, or some veterans like we are, where we've been there, done that, but what have you seen that's worked and not worked? Just a couple closing thoughts, if you would.
Yeah, I've worked on I've worked on 2 other small growth startup brands. One that's been around for a while, one that was completely less than 6 months old. I think, most early stage brands fail because they scale way too fast, too early, right? They don't know what they want, right? They only know, I want to make X amount of dollars this year. Okay, that's great, right? But how are we going to get that? The growth brands that say, I want to do D2C, I want to do Amazon, I want to do Walmart, I want to do Costco, I want to do Walmart, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to be here, I want to also deliver, I want to do subscription. You're too small to do all of that, right? And when I say you're too small, you don't have the resources or the experience or the budget to be able to do that. Pick your entry point, do it very well, right? If you want to start in Amazon, again, like we said earlier, that's not your total growth strategy. That's a channel. Build your D2C. If you want to start D2C and you want to go on Amazon, that's great as well. But I think a lot of founders or startup leaders often misunderstand this, and they just look at it as the more opportunity, the better. They look at digital as actual brick and mortar, whereas brick and mortar, the more doors you're in, the better exposure. It's not the same. It's not equal online. And I think they also then approach it with, well, let's run paid media. Let's run some ads to drive those sales. But paid media doesn't fix that, right? Paid media, as you know, can be an extremely expensive cost channel, right? Where you're just burning dollars. And I think what I've seen over the years is that it showed me how often growth is mistaken for progress, right? Progress is one thing and growth is another. Just because we're expanding a channel and we're progressing doesn't mean we're growing anything, right? And I think that is what really reinforced or made me think outside of what I can bring here to Throne, and seeing that they are completely established and lined up perfectly in every single aspect of growing this brand. And the discipline behind it is what made this exciting here. But again, growth breaks the system and founders are not ready to fix that. If something goes wrong in your conversion, a small brand is not ready to invest. It could even be $10,000 or $50,000 or $1,500 to fix something. And that fix something could be a development fix or it could be a paid media fix. I think that's where a lot of growth founders go wrong, is growing and scaling way too fast.
I get it. I get it. Look, my friend, this has been such a treat spending an hour with you. I'm so grateful for your time. This has been a blast. I can't overstate enough. Try Throne Sport Coffee, excuse me. It's awesome. I'm a big coffee guy. Anybody that knows me knows this. You converted me. I got to tell you, this is great stuff. And
Awesome.
I wish you and the Throne folks, all the success in the world. You're kicking butt out there, and you certainly deserve it.
Thank you, Tim. Really appreciate it. I hope the coffee keeps you up, keeps you
Yeah,
steady, and keeps you going. Get going, keep going.
let's go. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Awesome.